Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We'll just let our IT department go live. We'll be ready in just a moment.
We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order at this time. Our clerk will roll.
Baylor. Connor. Freeman.
Here.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Here.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Here.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present.
At this time, for those who voluntarily wish to as prayer online by Minister Gwendolyn, who is of the City of Joy. Immediately following our prayer, I'm going to ask if Councilwoman Holland will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
So, Father, we thank you for this opportunity to gather once more to bring glory to your name. We thank you for your presence. Our will and our emotions in order that we may make sound decisions to coordinate our will for the city of Akron. Father, you said when our ways please you, that you would give us the desires of our hearts. And Lord, our heart's desire is to see flourishing, expanding, healthy, secure, and full of opportunities. Father, we pray that as we come together in unity, oneness, harmony, in order for this to be as productive as possible. Let wisdom and understanding guide us through every difficulty, while grace, compassion, and love be the means by which we see. We ask all these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and for all.
The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections? A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman. Fusco.
Aye.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes pass 12-0.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco. Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Abstain.
Mosley.
Aye.
Abstain.
Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 11-0 with 2 abstentions.
We do have 2 public hearings scheduled this evening. Our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, March 21st, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to establish a commercial distribution office at 1169 Triplet Boulevard.
Mr. Antonucci?
Yes, thank you, Madam President, members of council. CLSK Logistics, LLC, requesting permission to establish a commercial distribution office at this location. The existing building contains approximately 1,000 square feet of area with 1 garage bay door. Petitioner has stated that his business consists of picking up freight business and delivering it to. Consequently, there will be no warehouse storage of. General hours of operation will be from 7 A to 7 P, Monday through Saturday. There is a solid wall along the north property line with chain link fencing for the remainder, including a gate along Triplet Boulevard. The petitioner currently utilizes and 2 spaces for the business. This northern section of Triplet Boulevard contains a mix of residential and retail uses. The proposed low-intensity use is a much more appropriate land use than the previous use of unscreened pallet storage prior to the car lot. CLSK Logistics LLC is a local small company, and the storage of up to 5 vehicles should have minimal impact on the surroundings. As such, the Office of Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval, subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open up our public hearing. All those who wish to speak on item number 1, I'm just going to ask that you please stand so that you can be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Good evening. Please raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Who are in favor of this ordinance, you may approach the podium.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Dominique Porter. I represent Casafo Rentals. I'm the family that owns the property. We're in a mixed-use area. We have neighbors. We have neighbors to either side of us and a lot of different uses there. I will acknowledge our past tenants have what I would consider a model tenants. But we want to work with our new tenant and make sure he succeeds and make sure we're a good community.
Thank you so much.
Chevalier Ron, CSK Logistics. I'm the renter of 1169 Triplet Boulevard, occupying the space.
Okay. Thank you so much. Is there anyone else here in the audience who wishes to speak in favor? Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak against? So seeing and close our public hearing. It's pleasure.
I'd like to pull the committee favorable report with suspension of Baylor. Aye. Mosley. Mosley. Tara Mosley? Thank you.
Thank you.
Report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thanks. We had heard of the favorable recommendation from the planning department, and I understand that the ward council representative is in favor. There's 6 conditions that must be met, and they've agreed to these 6 conditions. And so with that, believe that this is going to be a very good reuse of this property. We're recommending approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Okay, thank you so much.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, March 21st, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct sign at 182 South Main Street.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. The Akron Civic Theater is proposing to install an LED wall on the south elevation of the Civic Theater building facing Lock 3 Park. The video wall will be used for events at the theater and at Lock 3. to present silent and sound movies, to show slideshows of historic and present-day photographs of Akron, digital artwork, and murals. It will also be used to show images and short videos of upcoming productions at the theater. The brightness of the video wall is adjustable. The video wall will be located above the roof of the recently completed box office addition and approximately 2 feet below the roof parapet of the arcade portion of the theater. The video wall will be 17.9 feet tall by 31.5 feet wide for a total of 564 square feet of area. The Urban Design and Historic Preservation Commission reviewed and approved this project on February 1st of this year. The box office addition, including the video wall, was approved by the State Historic Preservation Office in August of 2019. The Akron Civic Theater is a local landmark and is listed on the National Register of Historic Places. The theater is a treasured cultural institution that hosts more than 200 events and draws 50,000 people downtown annually. The proposed video wall will bring vitality and a sense of excitement to Lock 3 Park and South Main Street. The Office of Integrated Development, Planning Staff, and Planning Commission recommend approval. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and open up our public hearing. Is there anyone here in the audience or online that wishes to speak in favor or against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, we will go ahead and close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco, what's the committee's pleasure?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Kamer?
Aye.
Connor? Thank you. Baylor?
On suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is something that I know many of us in this chamber have talked about before. It's going to bring a vibrance to this area of downtown in which we, not only Akronites come to, but oftentimes whenever there's concerts and such, it's a regional attraction. And so I think it's going to be very exciting to see this come about. If you just go to Cleveland, they have quite a few of these big screen type opportunities, I guess, for lack of a better term, up in the Cleveland area. So, and kind of akin to what we have at our own Canal Park. So this will be a great addition to our downtown, and hoping to attract even more folks. So with that, recommending approval this evening.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fuss?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Omobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 12-0 with 1 abstention.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
Yes, time on items 3, including 7. Request the committee's file 8 and 9. Those are the petitions that we had just voted on. And then time on the balance of the agenda.
Okay, thank you so much. That completes our old business for this evening. We'll now move into new legislation, budget and finance.
Item number 1, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent or her designee to execute a contract or contracts with Tyler Technologies to extend the Akron Municipal Court's implementation services of the Odyssey Case Management System software as a service, to purchase a CMS integration toolkit and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
The committee's reports, and we would ask for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing none, the rules have been suspended.
This is an ordinance that would authorize payment to Tyler Technology. This is software, case management software for Akron Municipal Court. And with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Kamer?
Aye.
Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 2, offered by Fusco, resolution approving and confirming the appointments of Mayor Daniel Horrigan, Chris Luddle, Thomas Tatum, Helen Tomic, Shamus Malik, Ginger Baylor, and Linda Amobian for the year 2022 as members of the Northeast Ohio 4-County Regional Planning and Development Organization, with alternates Samuel DeShazier, Michelle DeFiore, Jim Ashley, and Kurt Mulhauser, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 3, offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the service director or purchasing agent to enter into a contract or contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction of the Akron-Fulton Airport Taxiway lighting and signage Phase 2 and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Thank you, Madam President. Consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Offered by Mosley, ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent or their designee after publicly advertising for bids to enter into a contract or contracts for the construction of a splash pad at Firestone Park and declaring an emergency. And I'm sorry, Councilman Kamer is also a co-sponsor of this.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mosley,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable and we're asking the rules.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam President. This legislation is to begin the construction of the splash pad at Firestone Park. I'm sure if Councilman Kamer would like to add to that, but we are asking for its passage.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All roll call.
Baylor,
Aye.
Connor, Freeman,
Aye.
Fusco,
Aye.
Holland,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Aye.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Malik,
Aye.
Mosley,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Amobian,
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 4A is offered by Councilwoman Holland and Councilman Fusco, amending and/or supplementing Title IX, Chapter 94, Health, Safety, and Sanitation, Article 2, Nuisances, Section 94.29, non-weeds of the Akron Codified Ordinances in order to support the habitats of pollinating insects and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report is favorable and we're asking for.
are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. I'd like to yield to the sponsors of this legislation for comment.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman Holland?
President, and thank you, Councilwoman Mosley. This ordinance would modernize the ordinance of the City of Akron, which regulated the growing or permitting to grow of certain noxious weeds. Among those noxious weeds are several native plants, which we now know to be the primary food of important pollinators. These pollinators aren't just beautiful and valuable to us for their beauty, but in fact they very much carry the future of our planet on their continued existence. Among these native plants that were previously illegal under our ordinance, or would be illegal if we don't pass this legislation tonight, milkweed and the common daisy and several others. The proposed ordinance amendment would bring into harmony our noxious weeds ordinance with the guidance provided under the Ohio Administrative Code and would allow us to come into the modern age based on science and an understanding of our need to protect the pollinators now and forever. Thank you.
Councilwoman. Councilman Fusco?
Thank you, President Somerville. Just to recognize and appreciate the effort of our law department, Francie Lash, Chris Luddle, and also the primary sponsor here being Nancy Holland. She's worked several hours. There's been quite a few meetings. This is a significant in terms of the way we approach this, noxious weeds, if you will. And I know there's Michelle Colopy is one also that's been involved in quite a few things, and it's kind of a shift in culture, if you will, to a certain extent. Just to recognize all those that spent a lot of time on this, appreciate their efforts and work of Nancy Holland. Thanks.
Much. Are there any other comments at this time? Okay. Seeing, hearing none, the rules have been suspended. The committee's all in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Aye. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusk.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Obian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 5 is offered by Freeman. Ordinance Evoqua Water Technologies and/or Business Incorporated without publicly advertising purchase or repair parts and/or services related to the rebuilding of 2 screw feed pumps at the water reclamation facility, amending and superseding Ordinance 324-2021 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee requested this item be placed on the consent agenda.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 6, offered by Mayor Horrigan, Councilman Fusco, Councilman Lombardo, and Councilwoman Holland. Resolution congratulating St. Vincent St. Mary's men's basketball team on winning the Ohio High School Athletic Association State Championship and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Lombardo.
The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections on suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you. Well, this might sound like a broken record, but we did it again. So very proud of my alumni and, of course, Councilman Fusco there. The boys, you know, I think you'll read in the papers that Coach Drew Joyce says, you know, it may not, because they do put in a lot of work every day, 2 hours a day. And so they play a tough schedule, higher than their normal Division II, which prepares them well for the tournament. So obviously they made it, and very proud for their 10th state basketball.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other comments? Councilman Fusco?
All I can say is there's nothing else to say. I mean, Mr. Lombardo said it's just, here we go again, and it's just, and this is kind of like on the heels of Akron's son, LeBron James. That's kind of like where it started to a large extent, and so, yeah, that's just pleased as punch.
Thank you. Councilwoman Amobian, did I see your hand?
Yes, I'd just like to make a motion that we do this ordinance, mayor and council as a whole, please, and certainly congratulate Drew Joyce. This is his 9th victory, is it? Oh, it's
Well, 10th for the school,
but state.
but him alone, I think, has
I think it's 9.
8.
Is it 8? I thought it was.
Yeah, he was assistant for a couple of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we do have a motion on the floor for mayor and council as a whole. Is there a second? Second. All right, we got a second. So all in favor?
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0, mayor and council as a whole.
Thank you. That concludes our new legislation. Before we move into our public comment period, we are going to go back to our old business because we did skip our budget and finance item. So I'm going to ask if our clerk will read in item number 1.
On the regular agenda, item number 1 is a resolution adopting an annual operating budget for the fiscal year 2022 and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Time, please.
All right, time will be granted.
Number 2 is an ordinance to make the annual appropriation for the current other expenditures and the capital outlays of the City of Akron for the fiscal year ending December 1st, 2022, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Time, well, thank you.
Time will be be granted. We'll now move to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Just going to ask when you hear your name that you can approach the podium. Please give us your full name. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting, so remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. Before we begin, we're going to ask that you please be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Good evening. Please stand if you're able and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, please say I do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, we'll begin with those who are online with us. Dee McCall.
We are actively seeking accountability and solutions. We have identified that there is a housing issue within Akron, yet all that has been done is the hiring of 2 inspectors. Emergency, yet everything that is presented to City Council is presented as a state of emergency, yet those items presented benefits a particular type of person living in Akron, not those who are poverty-stricken or those living in less funded neighborhoods. We want equity when it comes to the decisions being made by City Council and city officials. We seek accountability and sustainable solutions that truly make sense. Housing is a human right, yet we continue to allow these out-of-state property managers and owners into our city to abuse our residents. At this point, it seems that there's a lack of care for issues that deals with the Black and brown people, poor whites, the elderly, immigrants, and refugees. We want better for all people, especially those begging for help, while considered an emergency, except for the state of housing, which is a state of emergency within Akron. We want to ask for better just for our city within Akron. We have the Interbelt that destroyed the neighborhoods of Black and brown people, yet we still unaddress the issues at hand. We have solutions, yet city officials fail to work with those who are actively doing the work. And we found that they seek out those who truly don't care about creating a better community. They only seek out those who want to help those who help themselves. And all we want is just accountability and just better housing for everyone that is truly equitable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dee. Reverend John Beatty, who's here with us in council chambers.
Dear Madam President and members of the council, I'm Reverend John Beatty, John-Beaty, Akron 44313, Ward 8. Last week, I tried to sit in on as much as I could of the public hearing on the operating budget of the City of Akron. The Director of Finance was unprepared to answer the questions of some of the council members. So often I heard, I will get back with you on that. I'll email it to you later. I was even more shocked by the responses that the chairman of the Finance Committee gave to Councilman Neal's legitimate requests for discussion by the council chamber as a whole. I was hoping to find out what the cost of a top-heavy city administration, in my opinion, that seems to me to hand out deputy mayor positions like candy at a St. Patrick's Day parade. How much salary does each deputy mayor make? And why do so many wind up living in my Ward 8 compared to Ward 3, 5, 9, and 10? I was able to find out why the new council chief of staff has never been voted on by this city council, and no citizen seems to know what her salary is. I've met but do not know the new council chief of staff. I'm not criticizing her. I'm criticizing the lack of opportunity to approve her by the city council and to know her salary for the position. Section 32 of the city charter says, the council shall be the appointing authority in the employment in the classified service of a clerk and such other employees as it may require. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beatty. Mr. Hargrove?
Good evening, Council. And I'm here in reference to development and the black community. This is my story to this council. And I'm going to read what I wrote today. Council, while you sit in those seats you have inherited, you have the same attitude as those before you. You do nothing for the upliftment of the black communities in Akron, Ohio. That this council has contempt for the black community, for fairness. Madam President, it is time for you to leadership and lead council in allocating funding into the black communities. This redlining must stop. The city of Akron capital budget, it's not this exactly, but this is what I wrote down. If the average is $200 million a year, for 30 years, that would come to $6 billion. And if your budget was $300 million a year for 30 years, that would come to $9 billion in 30 years. $9 billion. And how much have you allocated to the black community? But your budget today is $400 million. So I just try to get ahead at $9 billion, $6 billion, I can have something. So, and President, we have suffered for 30 years of redlining. Will you help our community to become vibrant, prosper, and grow? Yet the black community has been left out of opportunity. Will this council allocate funding for the black community? Council Ward 3 is the poorest ward in the city of Akron. Ways that the council holds back federal dollars that is earmarked for that community. I will end here, Council. Thank you for your time. Council, I plead with you, allocate funding for the black community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. We'll now close our public comment period and move into our committee assignments. Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco. Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
145.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman. Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
2 p.m.
Public Steamer.
2:15.
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance. Rules Committee, Councilman Freeman.
I make a correction myself. Budget and Finance will be 3 p.m. Rules will be 2 p.m.
Okay, thank you so
Thank you.
much. Is there anything else coming before council at this time? Councilman?
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I was looking at when Mr. McCall was speaking. I would suggest that we reduce the timer and focus on the person who can see it. I mean, I don't know if we videotape a part of the record, but it'd be better for people to be able to see who's speaking, especially for those who have to read lips. Since if you look at the way Akron Public Schools video reads, when someone speaks, the words read underneath. So that's something we want to think of. But I would definitely focus on the person speaking and not on the timer. The other thing is we've had discussions about we've talked about ARPA dollars in the budget, but we have not had an opportunity as council to discuss the individual plans we presented when we were asked to. We we have not had time to talk about our individual meetings in our wards. We bring dollars in to address the needs that were expressed by our constituents. These are ARPA dollars. Yes, they come in for specific metrics. We can easily do a census track and see where these dollars need to be invested. Some wards will get more than others. But then once we invest ARPA dollars, because these are, we could address needs in wards that may not qualify for ARPA dollars with our regular budget. But whatever we do, we need to come together and talk as council. I'd like to even see us in some ways talk with the school board so that we can leverage these dollars in the best way. But to not have this conversation and not invest these dollars, one, does a disservice to all of our constituents that came, and does a disservice to us, those who were elected to represent and what they feel is necessary to make sure that these dollars come into wards. So I'm hoping that before we're asked to vote on this, that we as council can take a look at what's invested right now and allocate a certain appropriation to our wards. There's a question on what's allowed. We can easily reach out to the Federal Advocacy Group. Mike Wallace is the one that heads that up. He can easily speak to us. There are many city managers that are doing this. One out of Florida who sat in with U.S. Treasury during the negotiations. So we have colleagues across the country who can help us if we feel we need some assistance. And then last but not least, we could easily talk to, I mentioned our colleague in Youngstown, city of 60,000 folks. They assigned one of their wards. Our colleagues up in Cleveland, and Cleveland is, you know, they run theirs a little bit differently. They started out, they assigned each one of their wards $450,000, just about a half a $500,000. So I'm hoping, again, that we can have this conversation before we're asked to vote on it, because then it'd be too late. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Councilman Malik?
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to indicate my agreement with my colleague's point about the timer and public comment.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else coming before council at this time?
Sorry. Now, I just want to be clear. Now, I know the budget has to be passed by the 31st of March. Is that correct? And we have one meeting left before the 31st. So I'm assuming that we're going to be asked to pass the budget next Monday. Either that or have a special meeting. Is that the plan? Because there are a number of questions that we raised today we still need answers to. Is there anybody here? Is Mr. Fricker here? No? No. Well, anyway, as my budget has passed by the 31st, and I don't know if we're planning to have questions answered before then, or we plan to have a special meeting.
Okay. I think Mrs. Williams can respond to that.
Yeah, I believe I was here present when Mr. Fricker said he'd send all the documents he had. You had very specific questions for me with regards to two different issues, and I'm working on answers. So hopefully by the end of business tomorrow, we'll get those answered. Anybody else questions, feel free to email us, email me, so I can make sure you get your answers to any of your questions so we can get that budget.
Okay. Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to ask, and this kind of alludes to Reverend Lady's comment.
Excuse me. Going on?
Yes, ma'am. I'll hold it up.
Thank you.
Our budget hearings, per charter and just per protocol for budget hearings, are supposed to be public. And I know we've been challenged with COVID and everything. The challenge is when we do these emails and whatnot, one, we may not get them as council. We need a post or a bulletin board where citizens can go and see that information, because they hear us talk, and then there's information that is left unanswered, and they don't get that information, and sometimes we don't get that information. And remember, these meetings, people have to go back, especially during the period. They state very clearly that communities need to document so that generations after can see what we did with this money at this point in time. This isn't just to spend it. This is to create sustainable change in our communities. So I think it's important that whatever is being emailed back or whatnot, that there be a portal that citizens can go to and make it easy for us to go to follow this information so we don't have to scroll through to see if we missed an email.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. Seeing and hearing none, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.